devs, what do you get when you cross a snow leopard with a light machine gun? Wait, that's not right. Ah, there we go. This LMG build can clear entire legendary checkpoints single-handedly without even needing to reload. Let's do it. GR9 Snow Leopard. It's a beautiful little beast. It's fast, it's steady, it's got a built-in scope, handles all the mods that you need, but what's really great is the size of its mag. You can push the mag up to 250. So the other day I put out this 8 ways to never reload in the Division 2 video. Hopefully you saw that, but if you haven't, I'll drop a link down below so you can check it out. But this LMG was featured in there as basically an alternate and possibly considered even better than the Bullet King when it comes to no reload builds in the Division 2. Now, it's not like the Bullet King in the way where the Bullet King is actually delivered to us by the devs as a true no reload weapon. This one you have to configure correctly in order to get it to not reload. And even then, it does rely on user performance to earn that no reload, which is pretty easy. Basically, give or take 50% accuracy. Where the Bullet King doesn't have any conditions. So you can just point, shoot in the air, hit targets, don't hit targets, it doesn't matter. You won't need to reload. The downside about it is that you're stuck with whatever mods that they give you, which are kind of crappy. This is back in the day when they used to give us crappy mods. And you're also stuck with that secondary attribute being crit hit damage, where you could otherwise have damage to armor. The Bullet King's got a decent RPM, but a pretty low base weapon damage. But worst off, it's got horrible handling. I think most of us would agree that the ultimate fantasy in the Division 2 is having no reload on our weapons. I mean, you would just roll over content. But we have that gun, and why doesn't anybody really use it? Now, I know there's a few people, but trust me, it's a minority, that say it's their favorite gun and it's all that they use. But there's something about the Bullet King, when you equip it, it feels very underwhelming. The stats don't look that bad, so it sort of makes you wonder. It's got decent stats, decent RPM, it never needs to reload, which makes it an infinite mag. So why is it so underwhelming? It couldn't be that crit hit damage attribute. I mean, that's not that bad, right? Well, really, it's the handling of the thing. And that's something that's difficult to see on paper, but the reality is it's all over the place, and the further out the target is, the more shots you're missing. And so one of the ways to show how well these types of LMGs are performing is by equipping something like Striker or Heartbreaker, something that has a meter on its stacks, so you can see how many bullets you're actually landing. And I did that with the Bullet King, and I was pretty surprised on how many shots I missed. And I found that you have to play pretty up close to the Bullet King in order to get it to perform. So this no reload GR9 Snow Leopard version isn't a new build. This is something that we've been running for several seasons now, and I bubbled it back up to the surface in that no reload video, and that reminded me of how good this build is for you. So I've updated the build and I bring it to you today.
Entering dog zone.
A quick break to walk you through the build. So starting with the GR9, so it comes with an 8x scope, and we are actually building around that, but I have an alternate build for you that don't like to go in scope. And I have gameplay footage of me using the no scope to clear that legendary content. So we have 50 rounds in the pouch. That's thanks to Gunner. I have crit chance mod here, and I like running the Omega suppressor for additional 20% stability. You don't have to do that. You can also put crits here or whatever you like, but I like having a good base of stability. However, this thing does get godly because of the talent. It's basically 90,000 total damage, 900 RPMs. That's pretty nice. And look at that mag at 250. So you need at least 200 rounds for this concept to work, but 250 gives you some assurances. So we got LMG damage to targets out of cover. Mine has rate of fire. I'd actually prefer damage to armor there, so I'm missing some damage on this build, but I'll take rate of fire. 3.7 second reload time, but for the most part, you're not going to be reloading. It's relatively rare. Will it happen? Sure, from time to time, but for the most part, you're going to be skipping your reloads thanks to the talent called Steady Handed, which is one of my favorites. I use this on LMGs and I use it on assault rifles. But Steady Handed hits grant a stack of 1% accuracy and stability. At 100 stacks, consumes them to refill the magazine. Okay, so there's some details in here that aren't obvious. They're not written in. First of all, you're gonna have 100% accuracy and stability. That right there is gonna allow you to outperform the Bullet King. We're talking tons of headshots. Also, what makes you outperform the Bullet King is you have customizable mods, by the way. So GR9 on the right, the exotic Bullet King on the left, look at your damage drop-off slope. It's better with the GR9, even though I took the Omega suppressor that takes some of that optimal range away. But as you can see on the Bullet King, the damage drop-off is a lot steeper and then cuts off at 80 meters. And that does play out, especially in legendary content, or the way we're playing, which is basically post up, annihilate everything from 1 or 2 spots. So when you get to 100 stacks and it consumes to refill the magazine, that's free ammunition. So you're constantly firing and you're getting that ammo back. That's pretty neat. So the only thing you have to worry about is just air shots. Just minimize how much you're shooting in the air. It's easy. It's the easiest thing in the world, but it's also difficult because you kind of get trigger happy. You just hold down that trigger because you got such a large mag. But you know, take it easy, buddy. I'm running Gunner, and to be honest, it's mostly for the 10% armor on kill. But you also get weapon handling for standing still, so that's pretty neat. I'm not really using the other weapons, but I have the rock and roll and I have the TDI card. So I'm running the Striker's gear set, and for the most part, I tried to keep the setup pretty clean because I didn't want to take too much emphasis away from what the GR9 is able to do. And so I wanted the build to complement the weapon, but there's so much you can do with this build. It's crazy. We'll talk about that a little bit further after we get through the basics. Okay, so Striker's going to give us weapon handling. We love that. More steady shots right up front before our stacks. 50% rate of fire. We like that too. That's more DPS. And Striker's Gamble, which is giving us 100 stacks of amplified damage. And then I have weapon damage and crits. So that's basically the equation everywhere. Not running much armor. And so I'm running the Striker's Backpack to give us more potent stacks. And it's got crit chance and crit damage. And then the knees. And lastly, the holster where I have 1 armor core. So this piece already had armor core. I just sort of left it, but there's nothing wrong with running 1 or 2 armor cores on this build. You're not going to miss out on the damage. All right, for the gloves, Contractor's gloves, LMG damage, because this is an LMG, weapon damage, damage to armor, and crit chance. Hey Bandidos, the community we have built together wouldn't have been possible without you. So as a thank you for supporting my channel, I am bringing you the hookup on member perks, including even more Division 2 content and the celebrated gaming music playlists. All right, the chest piece is amazing and probably one you wouldn't expect if you're new into the game. So the pristine example is the named Araldi, and it comes with perfect focus. So I have weapon damage and crits on this one, and we're not worried about missing out on that marksman rifle damage because we're not running marksman rifles. But instead we get this perfect focus, which is giving us total weapon damage when we're in scope up to 60%. And so that's gonna mean more than if you ran the non-perfect version with something like a Petrov or a Cheska or whatever. And that's because this isn't just additive damage, this is total weapon damage. And that's gonna multiply in your favor in the end. And I love running 8x scopes on LMGs, and this one has one already built in, so you don't have to do anything there. And so that's gonna just stack up naturally, and you play at distances where that scope is actually more handy than not, because you don't wanna be too aggressive with these LMGs because, you know, they just don't have the same burst as something like your assault rifle or your SMG is going to have. So you want a little bit of distance between you and the enemy with LMGs, not just because of the reloads, but because of their DPS and how they play out. So a lot more sustained damage, not burst damage coming out of these things. And so you're leaning more into that mag size. And in this case, the unlimited mag, you get 1 giant mag here. As far as skills, I'm running the decoy. That's pretty good. That keeps enemies from shooting at you as you're shooting them, especially when you're taking on groups. And then a fixer just to help with the heals along the way. I have 56% crit chance and 93% crit damage, 85% headshot damage, and not much else to see, but we do have the 10% armor on kill coming from Gunner. A quick alternate, if you don't like using scopes, go ahead and put on the Striker's chest. Because you have this continuous fire and such a large mag and a high RPM, it does a really good job at creating those stacks and maintaining them, and it's quite easy. And then for your knees, go ahead and swap in for the Fox's Prayer to give you some more damage to targets out of cover. So this is a really good setup. You could also run the Coyote Mask if you're gonna run with the team. That would help them as well. And so if you didn't know, with this LMG, it's got a toggle scope, so it doesn't automatically activate the scope when you're looking down sights. You know, on the Xbox, you have to click in to activate the scope. I'm not sure what it is on PC.
Hostile broadcast picked up.
It's a different way to play. It's nice to take a break into LMGs, and there's a lot of versatility to this. I'm only showing this build, but you can run Negotiators. That's a great setup for this, by the way, especially if you're running in a team. You could also run Heartbreaker. Just make sure to get those headshots in so that you activate the pulse. That's the down downside of the GR9, you can't put the tactical light laser pointer on this. I don't know why. Got a long underbarrel. I don't get it. Yeah, but it won't take that pulse. So you could run Obliterate on the chest piece. You could run Ongoing Directive. Tons of options for this LMG. All those builds I just mentioned have enough base damage on them where steady-handed still works, right? Because you could otherwise put a damage talent there, like something like Obliterate or Strained or whatever your preferred one is for larger mags. But I gotta say, on these types of builds, I really do enjoy steady-handed, especially because LMGs lack weapon handling. And that's one of the things that I've never really been a fan of, and why I think a lot of people don't run LMGs in the Division 2. It's because there's not a big separation between them and assault rifles when it comes to damage. However, there is a big difference when it comes to weapon handling between the LMGs and the assault rifles. They handle all around worse, stability, accuracy wise, and reload. And so basically you're getting an assault rifle with a bigger mag and worse weapon handling. So in the end, you're landing about the same amount of shots. So that just kind of makes you think, why don't I just go run an assault rifle? That's how I think, at least. And so that's why there's only a handful of LMG builds that I really enjoy in the Division 2, and this is definitely one of them, because there's a solution to that problem. And it's not just solving that problem, it goes above and beyond to give you like laser targeted handling, so you can really get in a lot of continuous headshots, take out those legendary tanks and critical targets, cutting them down with some serious damage. So if you play in a group and you pair this up with somebody else running like an Eclipse protocol build and another player running a really nice assault rifle build, maybe with their St. Elmo, so they're shocking and holding them still, then you guys are just going to mow through this legendary content nicely. Just look out for those random explosives. And snipers are also your threat too, because you're spending a lot of time out of cover laying it down thickly, while there's snipers that have an angle at you at distance that are able to get a shot off. That's really gonna hurt. So beware of those guys. So although I mentioned there's only a few LMG builds that I really enjoy, it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of good LMGs. As a matter of fact, the Iron Lung is the latest exotic LMG we were delivered, and it's a beast, and I really like playing with that one. But it's sort of like the opposite of what we have here. That one lays down a status effect, which is super helpful, but it's always reloading. The thing is always reloading. And I just thought to myself, for ultimate fantasy reasons, wouldn't it be cool to have the Iron Lung with 250 rounds or it never reloaded, just catching people on fire? I mean, I would take less damage for that. I mean, that'd be really cool to turn an LMG basically into a flamethrower. One of the other things is the weapon design. I feel like the LMGs don't feel as realistic in this game. You know, the Ouroboros just has that really good feel to it, that texture behind pulling the trigger. The LMGs in this game, they don't have that same feeling, and I kind of want it to feel more like a buzzsaw. I want it to feel more aggressive, and I feel like they don't do that in the Division 2. They feel heavy and slow, but not aggressive, which is interesting to me, and I don't know how that is. Am I crazy? So here's the question that I have for you. What do the devs need to do to get you to choose the LMG class over the assault rifles more often in this game? Thank you for hanging out with me today. My name is TuxedoBandido, and this was another episode of The Division 2. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss out on the fantastic experiences waiting for you in The Division 2. And if you like builds like this, check out the recommended build video I have here for you. If you have anything you want to see covered, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make everything possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be without you.
Follow me.
I get it.